Hello, everyone, again. After a 2 days event on several presentations from over 17 countries, we are now coming together to a roundtable discussion with experts from the European Association. So we wanted to talk about the topic history and research and how we can go forward with the strong body of history we have in Europe to implement that into the modern profession, to bring it forward. In Europe, we have that strong teaching and history body, and we want to see how we can implement research into the educational level already. So a very good example is Switzerland, where there is a center that brings both together. So I would like to give the word to Julianne Henseling, the director of CAH, to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. So welcome. My center based in Lausanne, Switzerland, is a new center in research in naturopathy. The background of this new center is based on what we have done in Switzerland to recognize the profession of naturopathy. I think that's why we are a little bit in advance in this case, because the Swiss Confederation decided to regulate a little bit how is the profile of a naturopath, with a protection of a name, and also with a way to practice naturopathy in a good legal way in Switzerland. Of course, there is a history behind that, because in Switzerland we are known to be connected with nature, and there is a lot of place where the hospital were really far away, so it's really natural to use, for instance, phytotherapy and other practice like hydrotherapy, and that's why we create the center in research in Switzerland, because it was a key component to upgrade the knowledge of naturopathy. And the center is called NAVI, and we are now building capacity in research to inject the new research in naturopathy into the education of new naturopaths in Switzerland. And we can also say that in Switzerland now we have a federal diploma, which is based on the Swiss regulation. So we are really pleased if we can collaborate with all Europe to create new research capacity. And more or less, that's the context in Switzerland.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Julianne. I think what is also a good possibility is if the schools already implement some hours of research in their program, how to do clinical trials, for example, how to do patient case studies. So this is then what we have in the practitioners' clinics every day, to start teaching the students, where our profession starts from the first hour of studying naturopathy, to build a knowledge of how to do these kind of studies and clinical trials then later in the clinic. And to implement a research, let's say, department in a school, because I think that works very well in Australia and North America, that many universities and schools do have a research center, because you have the teachers there, you have the students there, you have people who can work together to start doing studies and clinical trials and research in the profession.
Tina, can I add something? Yeah. So one of the things that I just wanted to highlight to everybody is that if you, when we did the health technology assessment on naturopathy, there are some very good chapters on research. And I think what is really important is the chapters that look at the challenges of naturopathic research and the rationalization and the reason why the research has to match naturopathic practice. And the good thing is that research has developed to the point where they can do whole system research. So we're not narrowing the practice of naturopathy to match the research. The research is now where it can take into effect the integrated aspect of naturopathic care. So there are some very good chapters there when people want to understand how you bridge the history, the philosophy, the principles of naturopathic care with research. And those are good chapters that, and keep in mind, they're written for government, they're written for policymakers. So if someone is looking at understanding research or explaining naturopathic research, there are some really good chapters there. And there's a chapter that looks at what is unique about naturopathic research as far as the considerations. So that is important. The reason why the World Naturopathic Federation is putting such an emphasis on building research capacity, one, it's the next step in the development of a profession, but also as the WHO considers extending the traditional medicine strategy and creating a new traditional medicine strategy, they've added in new language that talks about the inclusion of safe and effective systems of medicine and the requirement for research. So as part of that, that is becoming increasingly more important as we are, as a traditional medicine strategy from the WHO affects all of us. So we're looking at that. As Tina had alluded to, when you're looking at integrating research into the curriculum, there's a number of resources on the WNF website for research, looking at videos and guides on how to do case studies and how to do systematic reviews, how do you do clinical trials. So one of the things the WNF is doing at the General Assembly in Spain, and what we're going to be doing on our website, is putting as many resources together as possible to help the global naturopathic community build research capacity. And we encourage you to just utilize the resources that they're there. That's why they're there. The one thing I wanted to just highlight as well is when Daniel Kiefer talked about books and naturopathic books. That's an important part. And one of the naturopathic doctors in Australia is actually looking at doing a research study, looking at the value of the books that are written by the naturopathic community. So although we have the research where we talk about research designs, it starts by codifying information. So any way that we can start codifying the information we have, and I'm a big proponent of writing books. I think that is great. And thanks to Daniel Kiefer, France, I think, is the leader in the writing of books and historically. So it's important that we embrace all aspects of research and recognize that we need people who write books both for the profession and for consumers. We need people who do, practice articles and articles for the profession on how do you integrate the research. So it's recognizing, and that's the role of the professional organizations, recognizing every level of the codifying of information and valuing all of it. And there is so much information out there. I think that as a naturopathic profession, we are very prolific in the amount of information we have. We are probably the leaders and information to the public. And it's really about embracing all of that and just ensuring that we can help each other as much as possible so we're not duplicating those efforts. But it is great. And the WNF is here to help build research capacity globally, but specifically in Europe, when we're going to be there in Spain, in Switzerland in September.
So thank you, Iva. Anyone else who would like to add something?
I just want to say that in Italy, we have not regulation for naturopathy, so we cannot build our research department. But I'm wondering if we can cooperate with Switzerland to build some research together, so we can collect data, build some case study, and cooperate with Switzerland to build up some research as Europe and not just as a country.
I would have the same question. Thanks.
Yes, maybe just a few words. In France, we suffer from several months from our opponents or detractors that call us pseudo-science, pseudo-medicine. You all know that, and so we do appreciate the opportunity to work together, but we would need your help, Iva and Tina, to give us the different frames that would be optimum to work, because it's quite different to engage researchers when we have symptoms to eliminate. I mean, it's easy to test some plants or remedies, but it's quite difficult to estimate the impact of quality of life and all the discipline that we engage with our patients. So it would be a great pleasure, but we do need help.
So
That's something.
you bring up some good points. And the one thing that I would encourage you is that after we did the health technology assessment on naturopathy, we did a key messages document. And in there are the key things that we would recommend people say with respect to research. So the one thing that I really want to reinforce with countries is that the research backing the naturopathic profession doesn't have to be the research done by your country. It is the research done by the profession. And I think one of the things that is lacking is people being aware of actually how much research is out there. And Daniel, to your point, when you talk about quality of life, there are some good quality of life studies that have been done looking at naturopathic care. And that's one of the things that we want to look at doing, is to say, how do we help disseminate the amount of information that is there? So, for example, there is a research that is being published. We did the knowledge mobilization survey, looking at how the naturopathic workforce uses different types of information. And what came out of that is the naturopathic profession values the information from the patient more so than they do medical information, which we all know, but that's different. And some of that, and those sort of things speak very well to the profession when we are talking about that. There's research that shows that for non-communicable diseases like diabetes and things like that, that patients that go on that work with a naturopathic practitioner do better and have a better quality of life. So some of that, when things come up, then we have to look at what sort of information do people need and how do we let you know where it is? And that's some of it. There are some things like iridology. I know that was a recent issue in France. There are some modalities that we have lots of books for, we have lots of understanding, but we don't have a lot of research. But the key is to understand where the research is. And for us as a profession, to work with other professions such as homeopathy, who are undergoing the same challenges, and to using their research database. So we have what we call naturopathic research, which is research conducted by the naturopathic profession. And then we have borrowed research, which is research conducted by the homeopaths or the herbal medicine or acupuncture. And it is about understanding all of that and understanding how we use it. The other point I want to make when we're looking at when you're in a country where you can't do a lot of research right now, things that we would recommend is that look for opportunities where people can learn those skills. So for example, the WNF right now is doing a live review on natural health products used within the pandemic. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be publishing 400 research articles that have been done, not systematic reviews, but research articles looking at natural health products and natural therapies used. And what we had is we had individuals that we taught, how do you analyze these so that we can do the analysis? So there are opportunities. And even for other schools that do it, that's what I recommend that people do, is look for somebody in the country who can learn that skill. So down the road in 3 years and 5 years, when it turns out that you can now bring a research department into your schools, you have somebody who's ready, right? And that's the value of the WNF. That's the value of conferences such as this, is to bring the community together and to recognize that we are as strong as the international community. So no country has to stand on its own. And that's what we're looking at doing in these conferences and within the WNF, is to really utilizing the resources that we have as a profession, because it is so much more than any one country has on their own.
Hiva, maybe I can add something. As you mentioned, it is very important for us in France to be able to build and make partnership with foreign research center or foreign research capability, because we have a special context for research in France, because research in the field of human health is highly regulated in France, and launching a clinical trial is a very complex administrative process, with often high financial cost to enter in a clinical trial. So to really advance in naturopathic research, we have to build this capacity to make partnership with foreign research center, maybe to build knowledge and capability in that way, and then be able to enter research process in France.
I agree. One of the things that I just want to highlight for people, the reason why the World Naturopathic Federation started to do a live review on research that had been done on natural health products that were used within the pandemic is because as a profession, we were sort of excluded from that realm, right? So the purpose of doing the live review was to get back into the conversation and to say that even if the research wasn't done by the profession, so we have 2 days ago, the article, an interim report on the live review was published in the CAND journal. And so was on the CAND journal. And that showed the amount of work that had been done. So even if you as a country or as a school or as an organization cannot do research right now for whatever reasons, there's lots of ways where you can still get where you're part of the conversation. And that's what the WNF is looking for. Around the world, there's lots of naturopathic schools who can do research. But when we were sort of left out of that conversation, and we said we shouldn't be, then we found a way to get part of that, get back into that conversation. And that's what everybody has to do, is to say, how do we get part of the conversation? If in your country you cannot do clinical trials, then looking at doing, writing up other people's research on something that's important to you, whether it be iridology, whether it be APIS therapy in Chile, whether it be essential oils, it doesn't matter, right? It is, because there are so many different types of research, and it's about how do we start as getting part of the conversation, and anybody can write an article that then is published in another journal. On the WNF website, we list, I think it is 25 journals that accept articles from people in the naturopathic community. So it's about finding how you get part of that conversation wherever you fit on the realm of research, and just starting, right? And that's what I'm saying, is that, and looking for opportunities. And that's what we're going to be doing partly at the General Assembly. Is one, the goal is to help build research capacity, but it's also teaching people there are so many doors in. It's not one, there are so many doors in, and you want to find, based on your funding opportunities, your resources, your people, your interest, all these things, what's the best door for you? And that's how we just build research capacity, right? Because we have, when we did the HTA, we had over 235 research articles that we summarized, and it included over 80 different conditions. So what is unique about the naturopathic profession is the breadth of research. There are some people who only research yoga. There's some people who only research herbal medicine. There's other people who only do diabetes. Doesn't matter, right? There is so many different areas, and it's just finding what works for you and finding other people who can support you in that around the world. Because trust me, when you're doing research, you always need other people who can help.
Great, thank you.
I say something? May I come in, please? It's Marion here from Ireland. We've had we've been involved in 2 EU research integrated submissions, and we've met with the Commissioner for Mental Health. There's great interest, and I apologize for that call. That was actually a conventional medicine doctor who is very interested in this work and wants to attend some of the meetings. There's great interest out there, both in Ireland and in the UK. In fact, it was the Foundation of Integrated Medicine that supported our little organisation to get where we're at. We have formal government research, and we've been involved in integrated EU research. As far as students go, we teach them also on the ground. We work postgraduate, so that the case studies are taken on site. We work with the government in providing services, and then we measure them as we go along, working in an integrated approach with their conventional medicine doctors, and it works so well. We're involved in the courts as well, so the doors are open out there for us to work with conventional medicine. And it's my view we do need both. That's just my view. Where we work so well is with the problem with violence and drugs, where no more drugs, it works. And you can't treat the problem of violence with more violence. So it is so effective, and the cases can be followed right through. And we find that with some of the people have conditions, although they've come for maybe addiction, the other condition starts clearing. Although in the initial assessment, we also include conventional medicine screening, scanning, and we work side by side with assessment. And this is what is so effective. Sorry, I just wanted to get that in. I thought it was so important that we did get it in, that there are some areas in which the walls are down. We just have to collaborate administratively to provide what is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
We were in
common.
Sigmund Freud University for that research, by the way, for the submission. So we have
Yeah.
conventional medicine
thank-
universities that really want to work with us for the research. Sorry, I've got my glasses on because the screen is so bright. So I just thought it was important. I just wanted to get it in, that it is there, though a lot of those doors are open. And we teach person-centered as they go along, so that the practitioner might have osteopathy or homeopathy, it's integrated. But for their skill, they learn the next level of working with the patient and its impact on them and on their work. So it's postgraduate work for very difficult cases. So sorry, that's all I wanted to get in. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is also what we have always discussed in the WNF when the pandemic started, for example, that this is a great time for the naturopathic profession. And same, like you commented from Ireland, Marion, what we see in other countries, European region or globally, that we really get on forward in regulation, research, and keeping on the historical body of our profession. So that is not a contra position, it is all together. So we have seen, for example, let's say a traditional knowledge, or let's say historical evidence, also exists. So we can keep the history, for example, projects on traditional knowledge and putting them into the presence. What is today actually there? So having all these things together, I think this is now the perfect time for the naturopathic profession.
I agree. There are no boundaries except our own mind. I think they want us to be really well organized so that they can make the funds available. But we've been pushing for funding for years because it has to be properly resourced.
Oh, yeah, this is a great topic as well, the funding of research. Yeah. So anyone else who would like to comment and add something?
Maybe I can just answer the question for the beginning. I think I encourage you to come to the General Assembly in Switzerland and to follow with the Swiss conference about research, which will be made in our place in Biopole in Lausanne, so we can discuss, create contacts, exchange, see what we can do together, and create maybe an event every year in the next years that we can meet each other and to speak about research and how we can help each other. So I think it's first step. It's to come and we can speak, and maybe one time it's in your country later on, and we can create something really nice. So
yes, we will be there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I think that's great summary words, and we have a bright future. And it's also a fantastic opportunity to meet face to face again in September at the General Assembly.
That's for sure, yeah. I would just want to add one point about linguistics, because the problem in my country, and I'm sure in a few others, is the question of speaking English well enough to understand research, because most research up to now has been done in the States or in Australia or English-speaking countries anyway. And I'm very happy to hear about the good situation in Ireland. You've been blessed with good cooperation. That's excellent.
We fight, but I've been to Brussels and met the commissioner there, and he really is good. He's 100. I have a fighting spirit because I've worked in the prisons, and it's an outrage. My work is valuable, you know. So I think we're so nice that we you know, perhaps with me, I've had to fight to get there, but
Okay.
I'm leading the way.
Well, we can learn from one another, that's for sure. Yes, definitely.
Work with somebody with a problem with suicide or homicide. It's person-centered. You have to be able to stand up to it. So that's part of and that touches in on other work, and that's how we did it, because it was so important. The government listened, but it was the UK government, the Foundation of Integrated Medicine, that was King's Charles. He set that up. That was the very early days of my work, and we do have them to thank. I know I'm Irish, my mother's from Tipperary, but it did come, they did support the prison work, and that made it possible for us to get here. And we acknowledge all that has assisted on the path. I mean, that is our path. And it's for another day, but I want to talk about the force that permeates time to reach the injury in the past. I hope to be talking about that. It's not physical force. It's not fighting with the fist. It's at a different. You know what I'm talking about. I can see what you're saying. You know. We don't.
No, but I understand. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, it's to permeate time to reach the source injury. You know, they're moving the atoms around, but they're using the wrong level of force. It's almost funny. I'm looking forward to seeing you all, because it's lovely to meet people that I can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That I don't even have to say it's even better. It's lovely to meet you.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. And what I was saying about the language is hopefully first step will be probably to try and translate all existing research into international languages, definitely French and Italian and Spanish or whatever, you know, because otherwise there's only one or two persons in one given country that can actually understand it, and that's a pity. That's one obstacle that needs to be removed.
A very good point, and it's one of the things that WNF has identified as one of the next steps. And this is not something we're going to solve, but this is something that we're recognizing is being solved globally, where there are so many more translation services available and online translation services. And that's partly what we can do, is to say, if you want to look at research, you know, these are the translation services that can help you. And because that globally is recognized as the hurdle, right? So, and even just, so we recognize in the health technology assessment, a lot of the research done in Germany, which is extensive, wasn't necessarily included, partly because of language, partly because of our, how they do it. There's more insular, but you bring up the next step in the WNF, not just with research, but just globally, is in order to use the information we talk about, where there's so much information, you have to be able to use it in your language. So we hope to have some resources. Our plan is to have resources that we can identify during the General Assembly that will say, this is what you can use. Right. So
good.
But it's, you are right on point. That is a very important point.
Yeah. What we do, for example, in Spain, so we bring the English research paper related to a topic in a program, let's say second year, third year naturopathic program. We bring it to the students, and that can be a project of a student to translate a research paper into Spanish. And with that, we have already a huge resource of English research papers translated into Spanish. And at the same time, a student can have a kind of a project while his education, and learning the research and presenting it then in Spanish to the class.
That seems to be a very good idea. Yeah. definitely.
Within Omnes Continuous Training Center, we do almost the same. We gather a lot of scientific study, we translate them, we make abstract of them in French, and we put in place free online training to have access to their translated study.
Good.
You know, when we're together, it's when people bring up key topics like this, like Benedict brings up the linguistics and the language issue, that's where some of the biggest gems are when we come together face to face, is you have these conversations that solve a problem so much easier than if you're trying to do it on your own. And that's what I really like about the face-to-face meetings, is not so much not just the agenda and how you accomplish the agenda, but it's all the side things that happen that just, you know, make it so much so valuable to people. So thank you, Jerome, for that. Some very good ideas, you know, that will help other people. Great.
Okay, so I thank you very much for this fruitful discussion. I thank all the participants to that 4th Naturopathic European Symposium participating these 2 days. And I wish you all the best, and let's go to the bright future the naturopathic profession has in beforehand. And we will meet soon, hopefully face to face. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.